So, what if I told you your child's eczema or skin rashes, their constant colds and runny noses, or their tummy aches all had something to do with what was happening in their gut? It's called leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And once I started learning about it, it really changed how I thought about my kids' health. Now, to be upfront, leaky gut isn't a formally recognized medical diagnosis just yet, but increased intestinal permeability, the actual biological thing, is real and genuinely studied by researchers. So, today I want to walk you through what it actually is, what some of the signs might look like in your kids, what researchers think contributes to it, and what food changes made a real difference in my house. I'll be honest with you along the way about where the science is solid and where it's still being worked out. And if you find this video helpful, make sure you subscribe. I've got plenty more tips to help families eat well and feel great. So, first, what even is leaky gut? Well, your child's gut lining, the walls of their intestine, it's not just a passive tube that the food passes through, it's this incredibly complex, intelligent barrier. It's designed to let the good stuff in, so nutrients, vitamins, and minerals, and keep the bad stuff out, so toxins, bacteria, undigested food particles. Think of it like a fine mesh screen. When it's healthy, only the small, properly digested stuff gets through. But when the lining becomes damaged or inflamed, the gaps in the mesh become wider. And when those gaps widen, things can slip through that aren't supposed to. That's what researchers mean by increased intestinal permeability. And so when that happens, the immune system can respond to those out of place particles, which may trigger inflammation. The inflammation can show up in all different parts of the body. Now, to be honest here, the science on exactly how this connects to specific conditions in kids is still developing. Researchers are actively studying the links between gut permeability and things like eczema, allergies, and other inflammatory conditions. It's a real area of research, but we're not at the point where doctors can say definitely your child's eczema is caused by leaky gut. What we can say is that the gut lining matters and it really is worth paying attention to. So the tricky thing is there's no standardized test that your GP can run to check for this. And honestly, the symptoms that come up in conversation around gut health are really non-specific, meaning they could be caused by a few different things or lots of different things. But here's what I started noticing in my own kids and what tends to come up in the research as connected to gut health more broadly. Recurring tummy aches, especially after eating. That's worth paying attention to. Persistent eczema or skin rashes have a well documented connection to gut health. Frequent illness can point to a gut that needs support, and around 70% of the immune system cells are located in the gut. So, gut health and immune function are very strongly linked. Food sensitivities that seem to be evolving or expanding over time, and fatigue, brain fog, and other mood changes. These can have many causes, but the gut brain connection is a real and very well studied area. With all that said, in my experience, I just want mums and dads to know that the everyday food choices are impacting our children's health with consequences that can go way beyond digestion. This is where it gets eye-opening and a little confronting because a lot of what researchers point to as potentially affecting the gut lining is the modern lifestyle. Ultra processed foods and certain additives are a big one. Let's look at the common emulsifiers like carboxymethylcellulose and polysorbate 80. These ingredients, they keep the processed foods smooth and shelf stable for months and months and months. And they're in absolutely everything. So biscuits, sauces, deli meats, yogurts, breads, the list goes on and on and on. And research has shown that these can disrupt the gut microbiome, thin the protective lining in the gut, and increase intestinal permeability. These additives, the regulators consider them safe, but emerging research is raising the question about their long-term impact on the gut, especially with daily exposure from childhood. Honestly, I didn't need a definitive study to decide that less processed foods are probably a better idea. So I've cut them out almost altogether and I haven't looked back. Antibiotics are another one, and to be clear, they can save lives and are absolutely necessary sometimes. But it is well documented that even a single round can disrupt the gut microbiome. That's not a reason to avoid them altogether when your child needs them. It's a reason to think about supporting and repopulating the gut bacteria afterwards with probiotic rich foods and supplements. Stress, yes, even in our kids. This one surprised me when I first came across the research. Stress has a measurable effect on gut function. The gut-brain axis, the communication pathway between the gut and the brain, is well-established science. And the research does show that stress-related change can affect the gut microbiome and the gut barrier. The emotional load that our kids are carrying can land in their gut. And then there's low fiber and low dietary diversity. So this is consistently supported by research. The beneficial bacteria in the gut need fiber to thrive, and particularly a wide variety of it. Vegetables, legumes, and whole foods. Today, our kids eating such a narrow range of mostly processed foods, and that bacterial diversity really suffers. And a less diverse microbiome can be linked to poorer gut health function. Okay, this is the part I love because this is where we can actually do something about it. The gut lining can heal. With the right foods consistently, you can genuinely help restore the integrity of the gut barrier. Meat stock was one of the first things I introduced when I started this journey. I wanted to distinguish it from bone broth. They're made differently, but short cooked meat stocks made with joint bones and gelatinous cuts of meat are easier to digest. The gelatin, the collagen from the connective tissue contain amino acids that research suggests supports the integrity of the gut lining. It made sense to me, and I've really noticed the difference in my family. I cook our rice in it, I add it to all soups and sauces, and even drink it by the cupful. Fermented foods are probably the area with the strongest research backing. Sauerkraut, kefir, yogurt all contain live cultures and beneficial bacteria that help support a healthy gut microbiome. A 2021 study from Stanford found that a high fermented food diet increased microbiome diversity and reduced markers of inflammation. Remember, you've got to start small with kids though and gradually build up. Cooked veggies, especially the fiber-rich ones, they're very beneficial. Fiber feeds the good bacteria. Think broccoli, sweet potato, peas, pumpkin, and cooked is often gentler than raw on a gut that's already like a bit inflamed. Garlic and onion are prebiotic foods, meaning they feed the good bacteria already living in the gut. Easy to add into every savoury meal at home and well supported by the research. Omega-3 rich foods, salmon, sardines, walnuts, flax seeds. They're well established as anti-inflammatory, which is relevant if there's gut-related inflammation happening. Most kids simply just don't get enough of this. Getting them regularly into the diet makes a notable difference. Gelatin is also great for the gut. A great way to get this into your kids' diet is through making homemade gummies. Make sure you use a good quality grass-fed gelatin, and the kids will think they're getting a sweet treat, but it's a gut healing snack. I have a permanent rotation of these in my fridge, and I just change up the flavors using different fruits. Now, food's a great place to start, but other things worth mentioning are minimizing chemicals and toxins, getting enough sleep, reconnecting with nature, and just getting out in the sunshine. The key here is not perfection, it's just consistency. You've heard me say it many times before. Use a little meat stock every day. Start popping a bit of fermented foods on your kids' plate, more cooked veggies, less of the processed stuff. Over time, it all adds up and the gut becomes more resilient. Okay, so on the flip side, the things worth cutting back on if you want to support your child's gut in the healing process: refined sugars and artificial sweeteners. Sugar feeds harmful bacteria and really drives inflammation. Artificial sweeteners aren't a free pass either. Research suggests they can negatively impact the gut microbiome too. Ultra processed foods, so anything with emulsifiers, artificial colours, flavour enhancer, and a long list of ingredients that your grandmother wouldn't recognise. These are hard on the gut lining. The occasional treat's fine, but as a daily habit, they're really going to work against your child's gut health. Conventional oil blends, canola oil, sunflower oil, soybean oil, these are all really high in omega-6 fatty acids, which in excess drives inflammation. So make the simple swap straight away. Start using olive oil and avocado oil to cook, or even ghee. Now, gluten and dairy, I'm not going to tell everyone that they should eliminate it, but if your child has ongoing gut issues and skin symptoms, it can genuinely be worth trialing a reduction to see if these things settle down. Some children do react particularly to gluten if there's like a tendency for celiac, and it is worth ruling that out properly with the doctor rather than just guessing. Gut health is a genuinely fascinating and growing area of research. The gut lining matters and what we eat affects it. In our house, focusing more on whole foods, more fermented foods, more fibre and variety, and less processed stuff made a real difference on how my kids and I felt. If your child's struggling in a way you can't quite put your finger on and you haven't looked at the gut yet, it's a really good place to start. Small changes consistently really do add up. Happy gut, happy kids. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe. I've got plenty more tips to help your family eat well and feel great. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.